Let's move on to the next session. We have amongst us one of the esteemed guests, Captain Nikunj. He has a glorious list of achievements. To name a few, we will have his audio file introduction. The session will be moderated by Ms Ishita Chatopadhyay. Can we have the audios, please?
Captain Nikunj Parashar, a merchant marine, chartered shipbroker and an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad, is the CEO and founder of Sagar Defence Engineering Private Limited, India, and Oceanos BV, Rotterdam, Netherlands, which has recently been awarded with the National Award in the Robotics sector by DPIIT. With over 14 years of experience in shipping operations, ship construction, cargo, and port operations, along with safety management, Captain Parashar is supremely skilled and is highly accomplished. He has represented India on several occasions, first at Los Angeles, USA, for Clean Tech program under the aegis of Ministry of MSME, second at Hague, Netherlands, as one of the leading entrepreneurs from India for robotics, and third at Slush Conference Helsinki, Finland in robotics, and recently at Viva Tech 2022, where India was selected as the country of the year, Paris, France, once again for robotics. He has made India proud with his list of glorious achievements and awards, including National Startup Awards from Government of India to Sagar Manthan Technology Provider of the Year Award, Dare to Dream 2.0 Award by Defence Research and Development Organization along with the cash prize of 10 lakh rupees. February 2021, single IDEX winner of development of autonomous underwater swarm drones with a grant of 1.5 crores from Ministry of Defense and numerous other global awards from Europe and US.
Captain Parashar, there's a reason why we chose you right after the lunch. Thunderous round of applause. Please welcome.
Shall I go on stage?
Yes, please, wherever that you're comfortable. We can have another hand mic arranged for you.
I have that. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure once again to be here, especially among the mariners. Luckily, I was able to enter and hear Dhruv speaking. And I was just complaining him also a bit back as being senior to him in the industry. So the best part of being a maritime community is we always look upon each other. And that is one of the reasons why I have also been able to, build up a facility like this. What you see here, and the topic given, actually I choose is the new age mobility. The reason is all these crackpots sitting there. So in 2015, out of 122 square feet, and that's my other three co-founders. These are ex-NASA guys who were making a lot of money. And this is what I was telling Ishita, that I convinced these idiots to come and join me. And by the time we went to this 120 square feet office, we had lost close to 4 crores. So imagine no funding. You've lost all your savings. So that's my wife, goes back, joins the bank and starts working there. But then you need crazy people to really do crazy stuff. And that's what we have been doing at Sagar Defence Engineering. What you see here is a craft, and this is the version 3 craft which will be up and running in next 8 months down the line. Recently, I don't know how many of you have seen across. The Honorable Prime Minister, there was a drone called Varuna which was manned, which actually took off on Janpath, went to a height of good 2 meters, flew another 5 meters and landed back. I proudly say, and this is on record, it's gone down, one of the bank's prelim paper, it came on Sunday and they asked which is the company to develop the first manned drone of the country, and there were 4 companies listed. I had our name also there. So I'm the first Indian to actually build his own craft, sit in it and fly. Now what we flew was the version 2 across. What you are seeing here is the version 3. And why I took this topic, starting from maritime, now building airplanes, especially these drones, how does it all go in? It's a simple idea, is all sailors are crazy. Trust me, you leave your family, you go out at sea, We've been in the period where we have sailed for 14 to 16 months on a single boat in cadetship period. So nowadays people only for 6, 7, 8 months, but we have sailed of those long periods across. So seafarers are crazy, and if they pick onto some idea, they start loving it, they do it with all passion. So what Sagar Defense started with was autonomous shipping. This is where I started my journey in, and you will see there are a few people sitting on a rib. She's doing somewhere around 20, 22 knots. The guy has just moved his hand. This is where the journey started off. But was I building these boats? There are more than 1,200 boat builders in the country. What we went on to develop was actually a hardware and a software. Now, the goal of Sagar Defense Engineering is, and in the long run, and I would say next 15 years down the line, if we succeed, we would come out with a platform, a hardware integrated software, which you can buy at Walmart and Kmart, pick it up, fit it in your car, fit it in your truck, fit it in your airplane, and turn it unmanned in your boat. We are already doing this with different platforms across. Now, while we are doing it, we are also testing our prototypes. Now, these are revenue contracts which we are executing, but in actual, as Sagar Defense Engineering, we are testing it. Actually, these are like POCs for us. So one of the section from that command control unit went on to make the first wireless charging station. Imagine flying drones, right? 2 people go out there, they fly these drones. But then if you want to take the person out, we are talking about autonomy. So if you have to take the man in the loop out of it, you need wireless stations, completely autonomous stations. So this is what came part of it. So tomorrow our aircrafts and drone ports which we are trying to envisage, which we are trying to build. And I'll tell you very proudly, the first drone port will come out in Pune 2 years down the line. And the first drone port will be at our facility. That also I can promise you. That it needs to have a self-sustaining charging station. Where you can have replaceable battery, you should have a sustaining charging station also. So how do you build your drone port? That means you need to understand the basic. Who is going to teach you the basic? There is no drone port still in the world. Nobody knows about it. Now that's a renaissance, right? And if you're going to have to think out of the box. So this is what at Sagar Defense Engineering we have been doing all throughout. Now, nothing beats something like this. Now that's my CTO, and never before than this. We have gone for 280 odd trials. And when I say trials, is I sit in it, I take off, I go 50 meters high, I fly for 2 kilometers, again come back, I land. But this was the first time ever that being a Prime Minister, and imagine you have to fly your craft in front of the Prime Minister at Ganpat. That means you need your Ministry of Civil Aviation permission, the Director General Civil Aviation permission, the Delhi ATC for a flight of just 1 minute. Now when this whole exercise happened, in Pune we fly very regularly without any permission. But when this whole exercise happened, as an organization, even as the Navy, as a customer, we thought what all operating procedures are going to come in line. Now this small exercise is that, look, the craft is going to take off online with the Prime Minister standing there, the craft has landed. It is setting up certain protocols. It is also making others to believe and dream that the future is there. So that's what happened. So when this happened, it has ushered India into a different new age of drone revolutions, new age of urban mobility. So and with this I would like to say, and if I ask anyone, especially a Mumbaiker here, who travels like me from from Andheri to Virar, generally a travel time is of 50 to 55 minutes by train, but if he starts from his office, it takes him an hour and a half. Somebody like my dad, he travels 2.5 hours every day from Fort all the way to Virar. A platform like this will add good 120 minutes to his life, because a flight time from Fort to Virar only takes 30 minutes. And that is the dream I am trying to live in. Imagine a platform like this, and if there is a casualty at your house, there is a medical requirement at your place, and you need an ambulance to come in, something like this can come and land on your terrace. Now this is where we are heading to. But while, when we talk about this, how did I really landed up into it? So the story started here. This was early 2017, and this was my third interaction with the Honorable Prime Minister. I've been very lucky, I keep meeting him very frequent. So, it's been a list of, I've met him till now 9 times. And the 10th time I meet him, I'm going to bring in a slide. So this was the time actually when my journey was starting off. And he came across and said that, Nikunj, you're great, you were a captain out at sea. What made you, come and start this business? Because you're going to take seafarers out. And his question was to the point. I said, sir, absolutely not. As a seafarer, we understand the value of family. Because when we are not there, still the problem is solved. When we are there, still the problem is solved. And this is something I don't want each and every seafarer to face in coming time. And that is what I want to solve it. I want to make sure that seafarers are also human. We are also very considerate. We have that social binding, emotional binding. So this was something which we started working on. And that led to our dream to realize, and we started building different platforms. So what you see here is the only different craft, so where there are total 19 crafts right now in India, which has all been built by us since 2015. There are certain crafts which are weaponized. If you see that one that is carrying an LMG gun there. And when we talk about autonomy, this is where it all starts. So imagine somebody who started off from a ship as a cadet, completed 14 years out at sea. मैं 12वीं फेल हूँ फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री मैथ्स and then you come up building certain technologies which are weaponized and used for classifying ops, where the revolution is happening. So I think as a seafarer, we understand logistics, we understand the cargo movement, we also understand how a human life every person deals with. And this is something we as seafarer, as operators can bring in a change much better than any technocrat building it himself. The way Shipkart is being built by Dhruv, I think a normal IITian could only build a Flipkart, right? But understanding how a shipmaster works. So this was an understanding which I could understand out at sea. So we started building technologies which could support the maritime community. So tomorrow down the line, when your ship comes across, and possibly Dhruv could be my first customer, that my bigger personal aerial vehicle carries his 100 kgs and flies to a cargo vessel and delivers the cargo. You are making sure that there is no delay time, the systems are up and running, plus your efficiency is increasing. The only job of a human here is to monitor and take care of the whole operations. And I think that's the best what we can do. So at Sagar Defense Engineering, and especially as Nikunj Parashar, I would say, I'm trying to turn mariners in what best they are into, especially Indian mariners, that we can manage our stuff very well. And that's where we are. So in the end, one single goal, accelerate world transition towards autonomous systems. And that's what I am at too. So tomorrow, if you look 10 years down the line, and in your Vijay sales, in your K-Marts or D-Marts, if you find this hardware, trust me, it will be Sagar Defense. So that's where I'm working towards. Thank you.
No words.
Thank you.
Only action. So, I'll hand over to Kika.
Ishita.
Can we have the audio file of Ishita? Can we introduce her?
Ishita Chatopadhyay recently joined Confidence Shipping Company Private Limited, a 37-year-old ship management company, as second generation, succeeding her father, founder and chairman, Mr. Ashok Chattopadhyay, who has also been the founder director and member of FOSMA. Prior to joining the shipping industry, Ishita lived and worked in the US in international development with the United Nations and related UN agencies. She is an entrepreneur backed by a strong background in business development, management, and international relations.
Can I request you to come and moderate the session, please?
the speaker. So it is my pleasure to be the moderator for our honorary speaker. Tremendous work and a great round of applause to you again.
Thank you.
So as Captain Nikunj has talked about, mobility at sea and on air, I think that's the future and that's where it's heading. And I think before I open it, my burning question to you is, you've already mentioned a couple of applications, but with defense being one and definitely with the seafarers taking this to the whole logistic chain, what are some of the other areas and what is the scale that the Prime Minister or the country envisions for this type of platform?
So when one-on-one interaction happened, especially with respect to scale, so his question was exactly same, that where all these applications could come in. And the first question and the first answer came to my co-founder's mind was that in villages, when you look across, especially when a pregnant lady, she has to carry out a delivery, the biggest death happens there still. And there is a program called ASHA which runs across. These happens because at times the ASHAs are not available, the right medical aid is not available that time, and the nearest hospital across, even today in rural areas, generally 12 to 40 kilometers. You don't have an ambulance to bring them in. Imagine a platform like this, which could be nominated in regional helicopter centers, in regional medical centers. And on a click of a button, you don't need pilots across, they fly in, land at a designated point, and you have an ambulance there. So this way you could actually save lives. And then the other part, the other applications where we are looking is again the highway. So urban infrastructure, when you look from your wall to the other wall of a compound, it belongs to the government. The ground infrastructure is very well utilized. But the air which belongs to the government is not monetized at all. So we are looking at monetizing the airspace which is in these corridor areas, and then we fly these platforms. So if you go to the government and ask them for land, they'll give you. But you ask them for money, they won't give you. So if you go to the government and say, I want your air above your land, they would love to give you because we'll monetize, we'll rent out that place, and then a logistic corridor can be set up. So if we can set up those logistic corridors and last mile connections in bulk volumes, that means when we are talking about crafts carrying in urban areas of close to 200 kgs to 250 kgs, I think that's a lot of cost saving also comes in. So that's where we are looking in efficient deliveries of products and groceries from door to doorstep deliveries or building these dome ports. And the last will be replacing of Ola, Uber taxis by these crafts. It's a very simple question to look around, which would look that, I may be talking stupid. But if you look at your Ola, Uber travel, how many times you have a second passenger with you? You are always one. It's always a second passenger journey. So for Borivali, you want to come down to Goregaon on a peak time, and I take a reference of Mumbai itself, it takes you 45 minutes, at times 1 hour. And from Goregaon, you want to go to Andheri, the whole patch takes you 1 hour. A platform like this, which is landing on a terrace across your buildings, on your drone ports, saves you time, saves you money, and it would be 1/10 of the cost of what you're actually paying in today. So that's where, and this is going to happen. So these are certain sectors we are actually trying to run in. We understand passenger carrying would happen 5.5 to 6 years because at the policy level, a lot of work is happening. We are trying to work on the policy level also with the government. But cargo logistics is already there. It has already started. A lot of state governments are promoting it. What as a manufacturer we are trying to transition is from smaller 5 kg to 2 kg delivery, because any last mile delivery which is done by a boy is between 5 to 12 rupees. You can't beat that cost. So that means you need a higher package delivery which has to be in 100 kg to 200 kg. That is the sector we would like to work in.
Great. So it's like sci-fi coming alive, and that's the
Absolutely.
future. So open to the floor now for questions, please. Yes.
Hi, this is Dr. Martha from Merrick's. At what height do you think that these drones will fly, and how do you deal with air traffic control?
So ma'am, the highest building right now in Mumbai is at 238 meters.
Yeah.
That means if you look, give us another clearance of 20 meters, that is the height I would fly. So I would fly at close to 258 meters, because general consumption of your energy happens whenever you're landing or you're taking off. So two things is I'm flying at an airspace. Now when you're looking at an integrated airspace or urban air traffic management, that means this comes in an airspace G, which belongs to helicopters. That's where the helicopters fly. This will be slightly below the helicopter's level flying in, so between a 200 meters to a 300 meter range. There is another urban air traffic management is already being formed by the government of India under the RPA drone policy in. With that kicking in, the drones, when they are flying in, they're going to talk to each other. Basically, the UTM is going to give them their right corridors. How our ships navigate in water, right? In open seas also there are roads and maps which we are running in. The same way the air traffic would happen, on that basis the overall management would happen.
All right. Thank you.
Ishita, can I ask one question, if permission from you? So Nikunj, when you commercialize this kind of a thing, and you are definitely looking at, like you said, landing and taking off from terraces, one of the menaces of Indian roads has been the overhead wires. Most of the city have. So how is it going to be tackled, or handled, or managed?
So generally an overhead wires or your power lines, these towers, when you see in the city sky, is based at 60 meters. So you have ranges between 30, 50 and 60 meters, the highest overhead wires which you will see running across your building space. So when you are selecting your drone ports, this has to be kept in mind of selecting your drone ports, that which location will become your drone space and basically a drone port to land. When you look at collision avoidance, yes, these systems actually have collision avoidance of 360 degree, but that is something, if a collision avoidance kicks in, that means it's a near miss at our stage. So all the air traffic, as ma'am asked about the UTM, the unmanned traffic management system, that will play a key role in designating your right drone ports, and that would in turn allow these crafts to fly.
Yes, please.
Most of these radio controlled models, soon as they go close by to power lines, they crash. So suppose you're carrying a person and by chance the wind blows them that way, what is the safety measure?
Sir, very well questioned. So when we are talking about absolutely a radio controller 2.5 or 2.4 gigahertz system flying in, that means it is not EMI, EMC tested. It is not Semilac certified. So when these crafts, you are looking actually an aircraft. So the platform which you are seeing is they are going through a certain standard testing which goes across, which are not affected by a 500 or a 400 kVA lines. Secondly, these would also be mapped across in your UTM. That means at no position your craft should ever go in. Now I would take back to maritime here. On ships we have something called cross tracks, right? And we can set our cross tracks on our autopilot to look at between a half a meter to 2 meter, at times 10 meters, depending on what do we want of a course. I've seen certain masters, and I was one of those masters who used to correct the cross track after a nautical mile if we are in safe waters, rather than doing a zigzag motion. It's the same way a flying platform, especially an air platform which is flying, they are within a cross track of 1 centimeters. So if it has to go on those designated route, looking at the aircraft with the wind blowing in, the craft is capable of handling it. And these crafts are actually it's a factor of safety of 2. So there's an enormous amount of thrust, much more powerful of a standard Ferrari or a BMW which we fly in. So these crafts do not blown away from their original course which they are flying in. And at all times they are going to be above these regions of heavy power lines across. So we should not encounter these problems across.
Hi, I am Captain Ashok Gogia. I am a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, and I run my own agency. Now, firstly, Nikunj, I must congratulate you. You've done an excellent job, a path which is very seldom taken by mariners.
Thank you.
And secondly, I would like to ask you, how do you keep this kind of equipment, this kind of a device from falling into wrong hands? And how is that monitored? Next thing, the first introduction I had with drones was when you would see it at marriages, You'd seen these drones. And I believe that there was some kind of a regulation which stopped them, or you need special permissions. So with these questions, how do you go about monitoring it?
So sir, thank you so much. I proudly say that as a mariner, I also have a defense manufacturing license unit. So we are part where our facility has been licensed by the government of India under arms and ammunition license. Plus, we are always security audited by 7 different security agencies, which includes NIA, IB and 5 state agencies. We have our own procedure in certain classified ops. So Good news, bad news for sailing masters. Now Indian Ocean is being monitored by drones. I'm the one who provided and developed the drones which can take off. Now these drones, the way they have been designed is, in case of all fails, safe kicks in, and even if it's not working in, and if the drone lands up into an adversary hand, they are not able to retrace it back and they are not able to get that data. So there are certain standards, as per military we follow it. What we see in marriages, these are very open source platform like DJIs and across. The policy has been come in and we are part of that policy. If you have heard, the second round of PLI scheme came in, there were a list of around 13 organizations. We were also one of them who are being benefited by those PLI schemes. The part of this was to stop these Chinese, especially these players, to come into the Indian market. One was to support the Indian manufacturing because we could not match those prices. Our drone starts somewhere between 14, 15 and goes all the way up to 5 to 8 crores. Whereas the Chinese comes at 2.5 lakh, fantastic platform, we would not lie. But what they do is they're sending their data back onto their servers also. So that was the first aspect. That is why the drone regulations came. The promulgation of whole regulation was done in order to stop this. So you stop the data theft. In turn, the RPA, the car regulations which has come in, they are in support of the Indian manufacturers. So there are certain guidelines we have to make, certain ETA test equipments which we have to carry out. And on that basis, green zone, red zones have come in where you can fly these drones. You have to get there certain numbers and licenses to kick in. So that support is there. So as Indian manufacturer, we are being supported very strongly. But if somebody wants to import these drones in, it's a hustle and it's a task. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon again, Viraf here, once more. Strictly with the perspective of the merchant navy being the end user, one would be, of course, consumables, spares, whatever delivery, and possibly even personal transport eventually. But would you be looking into aspects like, using it for firefighting or SAR or something, or even these sulfur sniffing drones, which are quite the worry of a lot of chief engineers, sniffing out the SOx and NOx emissions? So would you be looking into that also?
Absolutely. So first thing I'd like to tell you is, I come from maritime, but my connection was more with the defense forces. So I understood. So there were a group of 40 mariners, chief engineers and captain. They came together, they formed a fund, and they have invested more than $1 million in me. Why I allowed them to do this? The reason for them to invest that 1 million was I did not need that money, but I allowed them to do this. I understood that a lot of ships by owners are being provided with drones, especially these Chinese drones. They are being provided, and where the masters have to fly it across and click certain pictures across and then send it back to the company. This was a news to me. And this said ship owner had close to 150 vessels. I had 8 of my batchmates onto them, and everybody had a drone. I saw that as a business case. So this was something I realized that, okay, I'm missing onto it. And that's the reason why when these master mariners and the chief engineers came across to me, I said, okay, you guys are going to be my partners in really helping out me to developing these new techs. So yes, in coming time, if there is a strong business case, we would love to do that. And the challenge which was thrown across to us is, any drone you fly, the ground has to be static, but ship is never static. Either the GPS speed is 0 or the log speed is up and running, right? So you are moving always across. So the drones which are available in the market, they cannot land and take off from any moving platform. Other than West, there is only a US based company. I don't want to take their name. It is only us in the world who has the technology where the drones can land and take off with a ship even doing 20 knots. And when I say 20 knots, we have trialed these platforms at 20 knots of ship speed and close to 30 knots of wind speeds together. So equivalently, we are doing 50 knots of operations. And this is where in coming down the line, we would love from our partner, these 40 people who are on board and who have invested through that fund into us. We would like to have these challenges across, and they would be our go guys back into the industry and tell them that, hey, look, if Master Mariner comes and says, hey, look, this is the drone we want to test, I think any ship owner would love that. So this is a case which we are trying to actually follow now.
If I may add, it's not a question,
Sure.
but it's impressive because my colleague David sir brought it up, because if you are taking that drone next to a vessel, you have a whole gamut of frequencies which are going to interfere, starting from gigahertz on the radar and the sat navs and the Inmarsats and everything. That means you've taken care of a very wide spectrum of frequencies if you manage.
Absolutely, you're just talking about merchant ship. Imagine when I'm talking about a warship. which has an SRGM, which has a FOR, which has firing radars, which has SATs, Rukbani systems, the whole bandwidth of jamming systems across, which could jam your radars, who can jam SRAMs, everything. They can do anything. And you know, we go for missile firings, and we track missile firings also from those platforms. So we understand that, and that is the reason why when the challenge was thrown across to us a year and a half back, the Navy said, here is a contract to you. We wish you all the best if you can develop it. So that's how that came through us on a single tender, and we developed it. Just a month back, we trained close to 120 Indian naval sailors and officers at our facility, and we are part of the policy where the Navy is defining how the drones would be operated from their warships. So I think it's a journey. We all have been learning. We have failed. We went for around 8 sea trials, and on 4 of them, our drones, you know, we went to 20 kilometers and used to drop down. So every time a drone like this dropped down, you're losing close to 40 to 45 lakh rupees. So I used to always smile. So this officer walks up to me and says, Nikunj, how come you smile? You're losing good money here. So I said, hey, test sir pass karta hai, usko doobna hai, wo doob jata hai. So it's the way as sailors we are very positive in the end, right? We face the storm, all these challenges. We may be very naive not to commit. I have heard a lot of sailors also saying we are like truck drivers, but I would say it's not like that. We are very naive and we are very humble. We don't, you know, really take it out and say, look how brave we are. I think that is one quality as sailors we are, and if we take that challenging task up, I think sky is the limit. And that's the reason why I had these idiots with me, you know, my co-founders. They have been that strong-headed, and I understand the maritime from core maritime perspective. So the combination is really strong. So yeah, we have taken care of that.
Well, I have a couple of other burning questions. So what can you tell us about the management of this technology, and what kind of background does one need to even run this if this is going to be the future? Right now, I understand it's only with the defense. And is it going to be privatized in the future? Do you envision that? And also, where else is the technology operating? You mentioned United States. I'm just wondering what the scale is. Are you or here in India, are we the home ground for this innovation? Or there are others?
So I'll take up your first question, Ishita. When we look at background, I would say is the way the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is happening, the new skill sets are coming in. When the new skill sets are coming in, we need to adapt to those skill sets. So that means there are mechanical engineering courses coming with AI on board. So the same skill sets, if the Industry 4.0 happening in, you need to adopt, you need to understand, you need to read. As a mariners, I think, you know, the next 10 years or 15 years of batch of people, the new young bloods going into the maritime would be the real pole bearers of the autonomous shipping. So the skill sets are already there. I think it's a change we all need to accept and adapt. And the best part is, you know, many of us like me and Dhruv, we went, and to the others, 3.5 months of pre-sea, and then you do your 4 years of 36 months out at sea. Whereas these young boys, they're coming out with an absolute degree in their hand. So they understand what is happening around. So they're already equipped. They only need to adapt with their mental frame. The other context, when we are seeing the technology application, we have been exporting systems, the home ground being developed here in India and exporting to Europe, US and Canada parallelly. And coming down 4 months down the line, we are looking at starting our operations in US too, because we see that as one of the biggest target customers. In India, the raising money is very difficult. Now it's been great when people understand you. But imagine Nikunj Parashar in 2013 or 14 when he went out and said, hey, look, I have a box which does this. It's extremely difficult. And when we went to Europe, we were accepted there and came back here. And the journey has been still a lot of struggle, but it's kind. So US is one place, and the European market is one place where you talk, people understand. They understand where the world is changing and adapting in. So raising money is also very easy to scale in that front. So US is the next market for us for ops.
Great. Congratulations. I think it's a great and very commendable feat that you've taken up, not only for India, to make India proud, but also us marinas proud. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The confidence and the faith with which Captain Parashar said, 2 years later, there's going to be a drone port, it's going to be in Pune, it's going to be ours. That is commendable. Big round of applause for both of you. Thank you so much. May I please request Mr. Kaushik to present mementos to Captain Parashar and Ms. Ishita. So much, Captain Parashar. Honor having you here, knowing about your journey and plans ahead. We're extremely proud to have you, Ms. Ishita, with us, raising and expanding our diversity